Hey guys, it's Rockula coming to you from Secret Studios, and I'm doing my latest Walking Dead review for Rockula Retrospective, and this is going to be a re-review of episode 14, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the reviewers that have been talking about The Walking Dead. And then we're going to go to episode 15 and figure out what the heck's going on there. So the first person that I went to was Mighty Sophia, and she was one of the more, how shall we say, emotional reviewers. And she really went heavy into the Lizzie situation and brought up a bunch of good points that I already kind of agreed with, but somebody needed to really crystallize them for me. And we both agreed on the fact that Carol and Tyrese just aren't going to be able to live in that house with those two girls buried in the yard. And then I had a little bit of a sadistic streak in me because I was like, oh yeah, I remember everybody posting those live reactions of the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. And then, so I just went looking for live reactions to this episode now with Lizzie getting shot and Mika getting stabbed. And so I looked at Hippie Chicks, and man, I kind of felt almost like guilty watching her, or a little uncomfortable, because people got really bent out of shape about this episode. And I understand, it's a little girl getting murdered and then another little girl getting executed. So the other thing, she's also on a site with her friend called Two Dead Girls, a YouTube channel called Two Dead Girls. And they brought up a great idea, a great point, which is Beth and Daryl probably caused that fire. In fact, the fire that everybody's seeing on the horizon there, they're thinking that was the fire that Beth and Daryl set in the house. And that also points out everybody's really close to each other and they have no idea. And then Trev's Chan 2 brought up the fact that if that had been Tyrese trying to kill one of those kids, he never could have done it. And I agree with you on that one. Then I went and saw the Zeus Tuber. And actually, I didn't see the Zeus Tuber right away. What I saw was his channel called The Walking Dead Show. And he brought up a lot of the same points that I agreed with. And I generally, it's hard to talk about somebody that you agree with. But one of the things that I noticed he was talking about is that he's got the YouTube copy wrong police on his butt. So maybe you should go there just to show him some support, give him some hits. And, somebody's fighting the copy wrong police. Let's support him. I talked to Adam Tibbetts. He did a good review. I liked Jim's Nerd Nation. I liked Emergency Awesome. And Tabitha Treadway did another good review. So I've got a question for everybody that I noticed in this last episode and a couple of episodes, ever since they got to the railroad tracks, and that is, why is everybody sleeping on the actual tracks? It's like everybody that I've seen sleeping when they're outside and near the tracks, they're actually in between the two tracks. So who knows what's going on with that. And then last time I asked everybody, since we all think that Sergeant Abraham Ford looks like Seamus, I asked the question, who does Dr. Eugene Porter look like? And that answer, as far as I'm concerned, is Bill Hicks. That's right. He looks like the comedian Bill Hicks. And then we were talking about last episode when they were putting two and two together about Lizzie and how she was mutilating the animals and feeding the walkers live rats at the gate. And I got to say that I kind of got fooled on that one. I actually thought it had been the work of the governor somehow. Maybe he was leading walkers to the gates. Maybe he was tying live rats to the gates. But that's what I thought, and I was wrong. So I was going to make a big, an actual feature out of the zombie kill moment, but I'm seeing a lot of people doing it. And if it's The Walking Dead, that's one thing, but that's something that everybody's doing. And I don't necessarily want to not do something just because everybody else is doing it. But let's face it, you're going to see, like for this episode, obviously, and I forgot last episode, I got all wound up in trying to explain to you why I'm so cool and I don't care. But, if you want to call it the best zombie of the night, it's got to be the charred zombie. There's no others. There's only one other kind of zombie scene in there, and that was the guy. That was the guy walking that fell over the railing. So we're looking at the sneak peeks here, and there's the sneak peek where Daryl is getting beat in, and I was talking about I thought that he was getting beat in from like a gang member, but then I saw the sneak peek where there's the other member of Joe's group that's telling him that that's not his rabbit, and then he starts trying to get under Daryl's skin. And this is when I started to think about it for a second. Have they been tracking them? Because he asks him, if Daryl's getting all hung up over a piece of tail, and it makes me wonder if he's talking about Beth. And then he's talking about, was it one of the little ones? And it makes you wonder if if the whole group's been stalking them and is talking about Lizzie and Mika, which is pretty sick, but whatever. But instead of getting beaten in, now I'm pretty sure that when Joe said, teach him a lesson, that basically they're teaching him a lesson that you can't be an individual in this group, and if you kill a rabbit, then it belongs to the group. I don't know if it's claimed by that guy or whatever, but you don't get to keep your own stuff. And then Joe states this. He says, when men like us follow rules, the world becomes ours. And what that really means is that when you have evil, vicious, ruthless men that'll do anything, they don't really succeed when they're not put into constraints. When you look at Merle's that guy. He's like, I'm the perfect guy to do all your dirty work. And these guys are the same way, but you have to keep those guys in line or else they're all going to kill each other. You just can't have a bunch of loose cannons going around, so Joe had to be the leader of this group. And that's the justification why Daryl got beat. So we see in this other sneak preview that Seamus is talking to Tara, and he thought that she was in love with Glenn, and the classic loser syndrome of you're taking the man you love to meet the woman that he loves. But then he figured out that Tara's a lesbian. I remembered that. Yep. So we're coming in here to predictions, and I don't really have any predictions, to tell you the truth. I can only speculate about the possible situations that are going to happen. For instance, we got the idea again that the guy that got choked out in the house when Rick was trapped under the bed, if they all meet at Terminus, that guy's going to remember Rick, and there's going to be issues. And as much as it broke everybody's heart to see Lizzie and Mika die, what I think is another real big potential tearjerker happy moment is obviously when Carol and Tyrese find Rick, and then you get to see the look on Rick's face when he finds out that his baby is alive. If the baby makes it through this episode, it could kill the baby, you never know. Either way, there's 2 episodes left. We'll see what gets wrapped up and what doesn't. And I will be posting either Sunday night or Monday morning about episode 15. And I have to say, this last episode that I did, it seems kind of rushed, and that was because I shot an entire interview with my friend Meat Pie on his lunch break just before I did that video, put it in my 2007 broke down old computer, and the file was so big that it wouldn't even touch it. The converter wouldn't touch it, so I had to redo it. But look for Meat Pie to be participating in my Game of Thrones series. In fact, he's probably going to take over because he's the master. So, hope to see you Sunday night or Monday morning when we react to this episode. Keep it tuned here to Rockula Retrospective.